Welcome back to Speak Van Holding 247, etc. And if you like, subscribe and share. Good morning to all my subscribers and thank you for subscribing. And if you're not a subscriber, if you find this video useful, please subscribe, like, and share. Now, I'm also reminded that George Gordon Byron in Don Juan stated this: "'Tis strange, but true, for truth is always strange, stranger than fiction. Truth be told, the fictional account of Bob Saget's death put forth by the medical examiner, Mr. Joshua Stephany, is pure fiction." A lot of people rather believe fiction because the facts are harder to believe. Now, in this video, I'm going to prove to you that the medical examiner is incompetent. I'm also going to prove to you by his own testimony. First of all, I went on a quest for the last few days to purposely find the medical examiner, Mr. Joshua Stephany, testifying for the state in some other case to prove that this guy made up a lot of things dealing with the Bob Saget's autopsy report and may be concealing a lot of things. I am convinced that he's just incompetent and he's not thorough and he's not quite intelligent as one would like to believe. Now, I want you to pay attention to this here. They're going to ask him the same question in a different manner, and he's going to come up with a different answer. More specifically, they're going to ask him dealing with the Scott Nelson case. You can Google it right there. That's why I put those pictures, so you can just to fully appreciate what I'm about to say. By the way, he has more blinks than I Dream of Jeannie. They say when you blink a lot, you're up under stress. He was up under stress because his work was being critiqued. But back to the point. Now, the state prosecutor and the defense is going to ask him this: was he able to determine with medical certainty, dealing with the autopsy report, the cause of death? He says yes. And they asked him, and he said asphyxiation, and stab wounds. You know, suffocation and stab wounds. I have a problem saying that word myself. Then they asked him another way: was you able to determine by the autopsy report if the person died of the stab wounds rather than asphyxiation? He says no. At that point, those are the same questions asked in a different manner. So he was not able to determine the cause of death. Now, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I will tell you to pay attention to this. They're going to ask him as the chief medical examiner, what is your job? He's going to state to determine the cause and manner of death. And the state asked him, the prosecutor said, well, to a medical examiner, what is the cause of death? He says only 5 causes of death. I want you to pay close attention. He said 5, and this is what he said. Maybe not in this order, but this is what he said: homicide, suicide, accident, natural causes, and undetermined. Not once did he say fictional accounts. So why is it that when he did the autopsy report on Bob Saget, he just didn't put undetermined? Why was he so inclined to say an accident, an unwitnessed slip and fall, when there's absolutely no indication in the room of that? He should have put undetermined, as you would demonstrate by his own testimony. And you're about to find out that a lot of things that they do with autopsy reports are guesswork. It's not based on a medical scientific determination on an autopsy report. So without further ado, just check it out and tell me what you think. And by the way, good morning to all my subscribers and have a nice day.
Good afternoon again, Dr. Stephany.
Good afternoon.
Let's just kind of recap just a bit, since we've been broken up some with your testimony. What is your opinion, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, about Jennifer Fulford's cause of death?
The cause of death is stab wound and asphyxia.
And the stab wounds, I believe, that you testified to were inflicted prior to death.
Correct.
Approach your witness, Your Honor.
Yes.
Doctor, have you reached an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty about the manner of Jennifer Fulford's death?
Yes.
What is that opinion?
Homicide?
Cross-examination.
Yeah.
Good afternoon.
You stated that the cause of death was asphyxiation and stab wounds,
Correct.
and you can't say that asphyxiation was her actual cause of death?
I can't say that there's findings you see on autopsy alone for asphyxia.
Okay, and so you're basing that opinion just on the fact that her nose and mouth were covered by the duct tape?
Correct.
And you can't say whether that duct tape was placed there before or after her death?
Based on the autopsy alone, no.
I'm sorry?
Based on the autopsy alone, no.
Okay. And you mentioned that the stab wounds were pre-mortem. That means before she died?
Correct.
Okay. And you mentioned that 3 or 4 of...
What are the duties and responsibilities of the medical examiner's office, sir?
Well, the bottom line for us is to determine the cause and manner of death.
As the chief medical examiner for Orange and Osceola counties, are you responsible for overseeing the operations of the medical examiner's office?
Correct.
How many post-mortem examinations or autopsies have you conducted yourself, Dr. Stephany?
Over 3,000.
And is it fair to say that the objective of an autopsy performed by a forensic pathologist such as yourself is to determine the cause and manner of death of an individual?
Yes.
And what is the cause of death to a forensic pathologist? What does that mean to you?
Well, the cause of death can be almost anything. What a cause of death is whatever happens to someone that starts a chain of events that leads to their death.
And what does the manner of death mean to you?
The manner of death, there's only 5 possibilities: natural, accident, suicide, homicide, or undetermined.
At this point, I would tender witness for more, Doctor.
You may proceed.
Dr. Stephany, did you have occasion as a medical examiner in Orange County to perform an autopsy on the body of an individual identified to you as Jennifer Fulford?
Yes.
When did you do that autopsy, sir?
October 1st, 2017.
And can you determine, based upon your examination, the angle of some or all of the entry wounds? In other words, were they 90-degree angles, or were they somewhat off-center at an angle left or right? Did you prepare a report, Dr. Stephany?
Yes.
Would viewing the report refresh your recollection as to the angle of the entry wounds?
Yes.
Do you have that report available to review?
Yes.
And have you reviewed it?
Yes.
Having done so, is your memory refreshed?
Not completely yet. I'm still reviewing it.
Okay. Let me know when you're done, sir.
I don't make note of any angles or directions. All I do is note of what the stab wound penetrates.
Doctor, based upon your work in this case, were you able to come to a conclusion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to Jennifer Fulford's cause of death?
Yes.
What is it, sir?
Stab wounds and asphyxiation.
When you say asphyxiation, what's a lay term for that?
The term could be suffocation.
Can you tell, based upon medical findings that you were able to make in this case, whether Mrs. Fulford died of asphyxiation as opposed to from the stab wounds?
I cannot.
Why not?
Well, the only real evidence we have of asphyxiation is the duct tape around her nose and mouth. There is no real autopsy findings that we can specifically say it was a suffocation or asphyxia.
In turning to the stab wounds that Mrs. Fulford sustained, were those pre-mortem wounds?
I believe so, yes.
Why do you say that, Doctor?